In today's video, we're going to be building a custom battle pack for every single LEGO Castle faction, at least the ones that I own, that is. Starting first with the Green Dragon Knights. These guys will get a heavily armored knight with an axe, a roguish looking archer, and 2 normal soldiers. To go with the heavy knight, we're also going to add in this awesome looking horse with green dragon armor printed on it. For the build itself, we're going to make a simple watchtower for them. An olive green base will match these guys really nicely, and some simple but well detailed walls will go on top of that. I've also made these little arrow slits on either side of the tower so that our archer can shoot through them. On the very top, we'll add in these dark gray detailing pieces, and then the battlements can just get placed down on top of them. The last final touch will be a green and yellow flag on the top of the tower, and some fallen leaves on the ground. I am super pleased with how this turned out, and it feels a lot like a realistic LEGO battle pack to me. I only did 2 walls so that the piece count was lower, as I want to stay around 100 or so pieces for every single build that we make today. Again, just so that they look more like something LEGO would actually sell themselves. So to go against the Green Dragons, we're now going to build their natural enemy, the Lion Knights. The Lion forces are going to be made up of a heavy knight with a beautiful chest plate, a caravan driver with a short sword, and 2 Lion Knight guards with spears and shields. Again, to match the previous pack, we're also going to throw in a horse with Lion Knight armor on it. Now for the build itself, we're going to make a horse-drawn carriage with some loot in the back. We're keeping it pretty simple by making a seat for the driver in the front, and a small storage section that's protected by a lion's shield in the back. This space back here gives us just enough room to fit 3 barrels of treasure inside. A horse-drawn carriage like this one just feels exactly like something LEGO would sell in a battle pack, and I think the size of this one is actually just about perfect for a $20 battle pack. Anyways, next I'd like to make a siege weapon pack. Our first siege weapon battle pack of the day will be made for the Blue Dragon Knights. This time we'll build a knight with shoulder armor and a cape, a heavy crossbowman with a kettle helm, and 2 soldiers with short swords. These guys just have such an elegant look to them that I absolutely love. The color scheme is just great. Now for the build, I want to make them a catapult. So we're going to build this little rectangular base with an arm in the middle that will shoot the projectiles. To this, we can add a padded arch in the middle that can catch the arm as it goes up. Now, I do want our catapult to be pulled by an animal, so we're going to add in these wheels to each corner. And finally, all we have to do is add in some chains and a cow to pull the weapon. It can fire rocks off at different distances based on how many times you twist the string around. I'll leave the video tutorial that taught me how to make this one in the description. It is super helpful, and I could not have made this without that video. I just love how this pack turned out, and it feels simultaneously kinda silly looking, but also historically accurate. I feel like if LEGO sold a knight battle pack just like this one, they'd have a hard time keeping it in stock. I would buy so many of these. Now before we make some other siege weapons, I think we should first make some battle packs for the classic factions like the Black Falcons and Forestmen. For the Falcons, we're going to take an older knight with a sword sheathed on his back, and since he's an old man, I think it'd be a fun idea to give him one of the old Black Falcon shields from the 1980s. The shield is pretty different from the modern ones, but I think it fits this character perfectly. And since I made a Black Falcon battle pack before, I think it'd be cool to do an archery focused one for this video. So we've got a heavy crossbowman here, and a pair of longbowmen with padded coifs. Again, since we've got so many archers in this pack, I think for the build, we're going to make an archery training ground for them. To this simple base plate that I've made, I can add a bunch of tan bricks to act as a target made out of hay. And it'll look even more accurate once we've added a couple of printed target pieces. We can also push some arrows through these holes so that it looks like they've already missed a couple of shots. And to round off this build, we're going to add in a covered black and blue roof that perfectly matches the Black Falcon aesthetics. And of course, we've got to add in a random barrel with a broadsword in it. This is another pack that just feels exactly like something I could imagine LEGO doing in an official set. They'd probably not include the horse though, let's be honest here. Okay, so now that we're done with the Falcons, let's make one for the good old-fashioned Forestmen. The Forestmen are a very simple looking faction, so the figs kind of reflect that. Here we have a basic archer, but we also have a couple of cooks and the archer's daughter. I've also included a reindeer mount for them, and an additional traveler because this is going to be one of our $30 super battle packs. The reason I included the traveler here is actually because we're going to be building a Forestman Inn/tavern. Starting with this sandy beach base plate, we're going to add in some half-timbered white and brown walls to make a facade of a building. Above the doorway, we'll add in a Forestman shield to mark the inn. And on the other side, we're going to add a little chimney with some smoke billowing out of it. Around to the inside, we can now have some fun decorating it with a kitchen area. I really love how this scene turned out, and it's a different vibe for a battle pack, but I think it suits the Forestmen really well. Next, I think we should make a bunch of different castle walls for some of my favorite factions like the Red Dragons. Continuing the style of some of the other battle packs that we've made, we've got a heavy knight with a lot of intricate silver and red details on his armor. We've also got an archer here with a padded coif and a couple of soldiers with axes. And yes, I did include another horse with this awesome evil looking printed armor. Now for the castle wall, we're going to start with a dried out looking terrain with some random rocks and pebbles strewn around it. And for the wall itself, I've made it with a bunch of simple pieces that make for a lovely textured look. In the middle, I've placed an arch as an entrance to the castle, and I've also hung up a banner on the right side opposite the arrow slit on the left. I like how this kind of balances out the wall. Above all of this, we can now add in the battlements that have a red dragon shield embedded into it. This is one of my favorite techniques for medieval builds, and we're going to use it on all the castle walls that we make today. Since we used a ton of pieces on the wall, I've kept the interior really bare looking. I personally love this format of a battle pack. Getting a small castle wall with a few figs and accessories would be such a good way to army build not only your figures, but it would also be a great way to get some useful castle building pieces. I actually love this format so much that I want to make a few more versions of it for some other factions. Next, we'll make one for the Fright Knights. Here's the knight of the pack who's got a sweet printed bat cape and a flail. Their archer has a great hooded piece and a different torso. And the two regular soldiers of the pack carry some dual molded spears. And since these are these spooky Fright Knights, instead of a regular horse, they'll get a skeleton one. Now for the castle wall, we're going to follow the exact same template, but this time with a different colored terrain, and we'll add in a Fright Knight banner and shield. This shield on the top is actually from the 2019 Fright Knight minifigure that had a really cool shield piece that I don't think LEGO has ever brought back since. Anyways, for our next pack, I think we should make it for one of the rarest and unique factions ever made. These are the elusive Red Falcons. Everyone knows about the Black Falcons, but back in 2022, LEGO released this torso in their stores for a very short amount of time. And because of their color scheme, the castle community has named them the Red Falcons. They have such an interesting look, but unfortunately are really expensive to army build. So for my hypothetical battle pack, I've made this heavy knight as their leader. He's got such a menacing look to him, but also looks quite regal, almost like the Lion Knights. Then of course I had to include a crossbowman that makes good use of the Red Falcon sigil. And our last two soldiers are your basic army building figs of the pack. Now instead of including a horse with these guys like I've done for the others, I've instead opted for a boat because their castle wall is going to be set on the water. I've decided to change this one's base plate up quite a bit, and I've scattered some rocky islands underneath the wall, along with some clear pieces that almost look like small waves. This one just goes to show that with a few really minor modifications, you can make these stand out on their own. I feel like this is just such a good format for a pack. You get a decent little castle wall, and some really good knights. Anyways, now to go against all these castle walls, let's make a few more siege weapons to round off this video. First, we're going to make a Ballista pack for the Orcs. The Orcs are one of my favorite factions, and their leader here wears some elegant robes and carries a battle axe. While their archer has a more barbaric, standard orc look to him, and so do the other two soldiers of the pack. And instead of including a horse for the Orcs, I decided to include this giant orc big fig that came out way back in the early 2000s. It just made way too much sense not to include him here. And then as far as the build goes, I've made a very rough and ready looking ballista that matches the Orcs' barbaric vibe quite well in my opinion. I used a lot of sharp curves and angular shapes to make the arms of the ballista, and I think it turned out looking quite nice for the Orcs. And to go with it, I included a crate with some extra bolts for the weapon. In the description of this video, I'm going to leave a link to the instructions for a ballista that really helped inspire this design. And next up, we're going to be making a siege tower for my all-time favorite faction, the Raven Knights. Their commander here has a sword on his back and this amazing Star Wars helmet that looks straight out of the high medieval era. I just can't believe that this helmet came from Star Wars. It is perfect for LEGO Knights. Next, I've made a heavy crossbowman with a yellow cape, and we have two regular soldiers that come with spears. As for their mounts, I've included a camel with an extra round shield. And now for the build, we're going to keep it real simple and build the tower up while slowly sloping inwards towards the front. You'll notice that I've also hung up some swords on the bottom floor, and I've also embedded a raven shield in the front. Moving up the ladder to the main floor, we've got a bridge that comes down in the front. I really like how this bridge section turned out, and it's got some arrow slits on either side so that the ravens could shoot from it. And I've also made sure that it's scaled well with all the walls that we made today, and even the tower from the very beginning. Again, I wanted this video to basically show what could be if LEGO decided to start making castle battle packs again. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, why not subscribe? I've got a ton more medieval videos coming every week. This one was a ton of fun to make, and if you've got any questions about any of the builds or the minifigures, just let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.